Now that's a good Star Wars movie. Haven't had one of those in a while. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Written and directed by George Lucas back in 1977. At the time of this review in 2018, this film is 41 years old, but it still enthralls audiences to this very day. And much like today, the big studios in charge have always been stupid, because at the time of the film's release, the studio pressured Lucas to give Star Wars a disco soundtrack, as they felt it would be popular with the young people at the time. But Lucas wanted his film to have a timeless quality. His friend Steven Spielberg had just worked with the master himself, John Williams, on Jaws, and suggested that Lucas hire the composer to score his film. Lucas had originally intended to use the classical music of The Planets by Gustav Holst, but Williams asked George Lucas to let him write an original score in the style of Holst's work, and as a result, audiences were blessed with some of the most iconic and memorable music in cinema history. For the first time ever with Star Wars, a film had a stereo soundtrack, panning sound effects from one speaker to another, all thanks to sound designer Ben Burtt, who created a library of sounds for Star Wars no one had ever heard before, and so audiences wouldn't get fatigued by the constant engine sounds during the climactic battle of the film. Ben Burtt even gave each ship a different pitched engine. After the now iconic text crawl and opening theme of Star Wars, the Rebel blockade runner Tantive 4 flies into frame, followed closely by an Imperial Star Destroyer. This was the first time audiences had seen effects on this scale on the big screen, and the longer the Star Destroyer passed overhead, the more excitement of the audience grew. The film starts off full throttle as I have a gripping conversation with Captain Antilles about the stolen Death Star plans. I try to wring as much information out of him as I can, but he chokes under the pressure of my interrogation. Meanwhile, Princess Leia hides the plans in R2 and sends him to the one place she knew I'd never go. The sandy crap hole of the galaxy, Tatooine, where R2 and C-3PO are bought by my pudgy half-brother Owen. There we meet my son, Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, who went on to distinguish himself with a phenomenal voice acting career, voicing several comic book roles including the Hobgoblin, Wolverine, and his most famous role as the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. After Luke is carjacked by some sand people, he meets my old buddy Ben Kenobi. You know, the guy who turned me into a triple amputee and left me to burn to death? As you can probably guess, I'm still a little hot under the collar about that. He tells Luke the story of what happened to me years ago from a certain point of view, but you know what, Ben? Everyone else just calls this lying. While he's hanging out with Obi, Luke misses the family barbecue back at the farm, so he decides he wants to go with Ben and learn how to be a space wizard. So they set out for everyone's favorite wretched hive of scum and villainy, Mos Eisley. Now, not only did Obi encourage my 17-year-old son to run away from home, now he's taking him to a seedy dive bar. Some guardian of peace and justice, he's contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Are you starting to see how I turned out the way I did? Anyway, once they're inside, Luke runs afoul of a unique-looking alien, to say the least. Honestly, George Lucas always says Star Wars was made for 8-year-old boys, and no one on the design team noticed this guy's chin looked like a butt. I can't be the only one who sees a couple of rosy cheeks down there when this guy comes on screen. So Buttface starts making trouble, but Obi disarms him easily. And then we meet the often imitated but never duplicated Han Solo, played by Harrison Ford, before he made a career out of mumbling and pointing angrily at people. When Carrie Fisher read the script for Star Wars, Han Solo was the role she wanted to play. She had no intentions of becoming an actress, but the script was so good, she said she had to be a part of it. Back on the Death Star, I decide it's time to have a little talk with my troublemaking daughter. Like any responsible father, I had to find out what she'd been up to, cruising around the galaxy with her rotten friends. When she won't talk, it forces me to use creative parenting methods, shall we say, in the form of an interrogation droid. And apparently in the age of laser swords and spaceships, the most terrifying thing in the galaxy is still needles. Just then, Governor Tarkin decides to lighten the mood a bit. with a little party to make the Death Star fully operational. The commencement ceremony started off with a bang. Yes, sir, it was quite a party indeed. Alderaan got totally wasted. It was a blast. After Alderaan is turned into confetti, our heroes show up to save the princess. And during their escape, Leia jumps into the garbage chute. I guess she was looking for an extra copy of The Last Jedi to use as a gag gift. And fun fact, while filming the Dianoga attack, that's the garbage masher tentacle thingy for those of you who don't know, Mark Hamill burst the blood vessels in his eye because he strained as hard as he could while holding his breath to give a realistic performance of being strangled. And when Ben is sneaking through the corridors of the Death Star, we meet again at last. Our duel isn't nearly as flashy this time around since Ben's an old fart and I can't see a thing out of this helmet, but at the end of the day, I finally get some long overdue payback. More powerful than you can possibly imagine my butt. I killed younglings that were tougher than you, old man. After Obi's disappearing act, our heroes boogie over to Yavin, where the climactic trench run of the Death Star takes place. Luke joins Red Squadron, the best pilots in the rebellion, including Biggs Darklighter, the fastest mustache in the galaxy, and Porkins, the fat guy who's named after a pig. Luke successfully destroys the Death Star and the galaxy is saved. That is until next time when I start making trouble for everyone all over again. In the end, there isn't much to say about Star Wars that hasn't been said already. It is truly a triumph of filmmaking that literally changed the world and how we see movies. It is much more than a film, it is an experience that's just as exciting and enjoyable today as it was 41 years ago when it was first released back in 1977. For its timeless appeal, memorable characters, relatable themes, impressive vehicle, costume and creature design, iconic film score, stunning sound design, overall sense of adventure, and groundbreaking visual effects, I give Star Wars 5 out of 5 Death Stars. Episode 4, A New Hope is impressive. Most impressive. Tune in next week, where I'll review my personal favorite Star Wars film, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This has been Vader Reviews. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications, and follow me on Twitter. Join the Empire today. You do not yet realize your importance. Share these videos, and together we will rule the internet. And always remember, you don't know the power of the dark side.